Oh, wow. What's going on, everyone? Happy July 1st and happy Thursday afternoon to everyone out there. My plan was to come up here and do a little news break stream, discuss some wrestling news, and talk about last night's fantastic AEW Dynamite. And it was about 58 past the hour, 2 minutes from going live, and I just glance over at Twitter, and I see that the Patriot Del Wilkes has passed away at age 59. This is brand spanking new information. That's all I have right now. I have pulled up the Fightful post on this, and I guess this was revealed by a family friend. I'm just reading all of this for the first time here. The news was first, according to Fightful, the news was first posted on Facebook by Alan Wright Atkins, who wrote, quote, "At the request of his family, it's with a devastated heart that I let you know heaven gained one of the most special men I've ever had the honor to know today, Del Wilkes. I love you for 40 years and always will. Rest in peace, my dear friend. You will be missed more than you could ever know." Apparently, he was 59 years of age. This is really, really sad news. I know that Sean Ross Sapp had already pre-taped an interview with Del Wilkes that's set to be released on Independence Day on July 4th. He did tweet out a minute ago that he still intends to release that interview, and this is a pretty sudden loss here. I'm not going to do any speculation here at all, but we do know that Del Wilkes has battled those infamous wrestling demons that so many others have battled. Don't know what the cause of death is, what it pertains to, or anything like that. We'll probably get more information as we go. But the Patriot was, he was never one of my favorites, but he occupies a pretty big part of my wrestling memory. I first saw him in WCW. Actually, probably before that. I think it was might have been AWA. It was maybe the first time I saw him, and then I remember him in WCW. He was a tag team partner with Buff Bagwell, Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I think they were Stars and Stripes, I think, before Buff became an American male and then became Buff. And Patriot was pretty over. Simple gimmick, red, white, and blue. Lucha mask, that's it, but he was a bigger guy. He didn't have that high-flying style. He was a much larger wrestler and, very, very big and had a great build on him. And they brought him in WWE. He was there for a short stint in 1997, and they brought him in to be a part of that Canada-USA feud. Actually got a title match against Bret Hart, I believe at Ground Zero, I want to say in 97. And, for a while there, you thought they might briefly put the strap on him. You just didn't know. Yeah, he had a victory over Bret Hart on Monday Night Raw that I think set up that title match. And he was kind of in the mix there for just a few months. I think he came in early summer, perhaps, late midsummer, and he was gone by the end of the year, like by Survivor Series, I think was the last time I remember seeing him. So his run in WWE was short, but memorable. And it's just a shame. He's done some interviews over the years, and he's said some things that I haven't particularly agreed with. I don't think he and I would ever see eye to eye, politically or ideologically or anything like that. But that doesn't matter. He's a wrestler, and I have memories of him, and he had a pretty decent career there for the time that he was able to kind of keep everything together. And it'll be interesting to see, in that interview that we'll see in a couple of days, what his mindset was like, what his demeanor is like. Apparently had an issue with Tom Brandi, who's been doing the Patriot gimmick on the indie scene or something. Says he wants to punch him in the face, which I found that funny. So it'll be interesting to hear that interview. But sad news there. Rest in peace, Del Wilkes, the Patriot. So if you have any Patriot memories or Del Wilkes memories, please hit me with them in the comments. I wish I had a little bit more prepared, but I was literally about to hit the go live button when I read that, and that's why I delayed it 10 minutes to update the title and the thumbnail and things like that. So kind of caught me off guard there. So rest in peace to the Patriot. Let me cruise over here to the chat and make sure everything's okay. I can be heard. Good. I didn't want to say all that without it being picked up. That's good. Yeah, shocking. Let me say hi to people who were in here right off the bat, like Mixed Partial Farts and Beetle 911, Nicola, David, what's up? I saw you were one of the first comments I saw there. I just read the Patriot news when I saw your chat there. I'd literally just seen it. I'm like, oh shit. So better confirm that it's real and then try to say a few things about it. Also good to see Sam and JL in here. George Morris, what's up? Thank you for the $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? Looking forward to WWE Icons on Sunday. Lex Luger, he is unrecognizable now. All the muscle mass is gone and in a wheelchair. Be safe. I did see that he is the next Icons episode. I've been waiting for one of those to come out because so far they've done Yoko, I think Beth Phoenix, and maybe somebody else. They're fantastic. RVD, I think, was the other one. And they're great. And Lex Luger's got an interesting story, a story that I remember page and verse, backwards and forwards. Everybody talks about what a bad time period 1994 or 93, 94, 95 was in WWE, but I remember everything from that time. And I remember very well the Lex Luger push and how that was getting in the way of my beloved Bret Hart. And I had lots of opinions on it back then. Can you imagine, 18-year-old good Mike Work, some of the things he would have to say about what was going on back then? So that's going to be an interesting watch. And Luger's got, an interesting story to say the least. I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Big J's here. What's up, Chaz? Mark Simpson, Domination Warrior. Nate, I think I got you already. David Brown, welcome back, dude. Just back from your holiday. Happy to hear that. Ben is here. Deshaun Robinson, what's up? Jose Cerebrus, Mr. E. Spaz Phoenix is in the house. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Good guy over there. Chris Maycock is here. Bruce, who else we got? How Wheezy, what's up, dude? Dre L. Will, Rayleigh Sport, Nikita, Patricia. Right on. I think I got everybody that it's at least here now. I always like to do those initial beginning shout-outs. Well, before the news of the Patriot became available, the plan was to come up here and talk mostly about last night's Dynamite, which was a dynamite show. They closed off Daley's place with a bang. I mean, they didn't really say goodbye to Daley's place. They're going to be back there on August 4th. But at least for the time of that place being their permanent home, being there every week, they're back on the road now with the occasional trips back to Daley's place. And that's the way we all like it. So, pandemic wrestling, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. It was a very good feeling show last night. The card was stacked from top to bottom. Probably, arguably, the main event was the best television match they've had so far. Throw me out your suggestions for the best TV matches in the year and a half that AEW, or almost 2 years now that they've been on television. I think MJF and Sammy was the best that I've seen. What an amazing main event. Great shit there. An amazing video package to close out what was, a 15-month run, I think, at Daley's place. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the JR mistake at the end of that, the JR gaffe at the end of Dynamite, which is more funny than anything else. And we'll talk about some wrestling news, too. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch finally got hitched. We got Sonjay Dutt jumping ship from WWE to AEW. We've got some news on Bully Ray. I thought I'd at least offer my comments since I gave you guys my thoughts on the Eddie Kingston promo that stirred up all that controversy. Bully Ray weighed in on this, and I thought he displayed a jaw-dropping lack of self-awareness, but we'll talk about that later on. A little bit of NXT news as well. Brand new North American champion, and it looks like they're setting the stage for Karrion Kross's next challenger. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll focus on AEW Dynamite and talk about a lot of the shows that AEW has got set for the next month. I even put this on Twitter today that I really appreciate how they set some stuff up and they build and they book matches in advance. They don't book everything for 2 weeks. They book for a couple things for 2 weeks, a couple things for 1 week, a couple things for 3 weeks. They've got everything so much, just better organized. And, it's so nice to see a wrestling company actually plan shit out, and it makes their TV feel important. Where on Raw and SmackDown, especially Raw, you feel like virtually most weeks nothing is advertised and the entire show is just a promo and an interruption and a commercial and an impromptu match followed by a disqualification and an impromptu restart. And it's the same thing. They don't advertise anything. They don't make you excited to see the show. They don't set things up on the card that's going to make you tune in. This is kind of the way wrestling is always supposed to be booked. And I think so far they're doing a really good job. And I like that they've got Road Rager. They got Fyter Fest Night 1 and 2 coming up all in the month of July. And they're sprinkling matches throughout all of these to make it important to tune into all of them. And it's kind of nice and refreshing to see that. So we'll talk a little bit about the matches that are set for those and, shoot the shit. answer some questions in the chat if you guys have any, and anything else we need to get into, and that'll probably be a wrap. Just be up here for about an hour or so. And like I said, I want to try to do the Thursday streams as often as possible so we don't have to cram so much into the Saturday podcasts and, trying to figure out a nice restructuring thing at the end of the summer to where it's consistent once I get through my very busy summer, my vacation, SummerSlam, all that stuff that I'm going to be doing when we get on the other side of that. And into the fall and September, want to have, a little bit more of a consistent pace here, even though we're pretty consistent. I'm here every Monday. I'm here every Saturday. I'm here most Sundays. But lately it's been a little weird with my schedule. In terms of what you're going to get from me this weekend, I will be here Saturday for a short podcast. We'll probably just talk about SmackDown, whatever happened on Friday, SmackDown, and any additional wrestling news that takes place between now and then. Maybe we get some updates on the Patriot. Maybe there's some other stuff going on we'll speak about on Saturday, but I know that's a holiday weekend. A lot of people, including myself, have got shit to do, so it'll probably be a quick 1 hour or so long on Saturday as well. And then as of right now, I have nothing planned for Sunday, July 4th. It's a holiday here in the States. I don't think coming up here would really be worth it. I might not even be home, and if I was, a lot of you guys are doing stuff out and about, holidaying it up, beach, barbecue, shit like that. So as of right now, no video scheduled for Sunday, but we'll be back on Monday for the Raw review. So happy early 4th of July to those of you in the States, and I hope you guys have a great weekend coming up. But anyway, let's talk wrestling news first, and then we'll get into a little bit of AEW Dynamite and, chat it up a bit. Like I said, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch finally did get married. Congratulations to the happy couple. I believe they got married in a small ceremony on Tuesday, and I hope that Seth and Becky right this very minute are enjoying what is likely to be the last few moments of peace for the foreseeable future for both of them. Becky Lynch is about to come back. They're both top stars in the company, both championship title contenders, and barring any injury, they're going to be balls to the wall on their schedule. So they're two top stars in the company with that travel schedule and a brand new baby. So this might be the last few minutes of a breather. And I just hope, if they're sitting there in front of a beach right now and they're enjoying a cocktail, soak it up because, they're two great wrestlers that are going to be very, very busy. Now they have a family. And like I said, in that draft or, with somebody like Becky, she probably doesn't even need to be drafted. She could come back anywhere she wants. But I think, when that draft happens, you will see, excuse me, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch on the same brand. You can't really have it any other way with them. If they're married and they got a kid, for them to be on separate road schedules, that would be fucked. So they'll probably be on the same show, and I just really, really hope that they're enjoying their tiny little honeymoon or their little vacation, however long WWE is giving them. I don't know if WWE is giving Seth off tomorrow for SmackDown or he's not going to be on the show. Don't really know, but I hope they at least have a couple days, maybe even through the weekend, to enjoy their nuptials before shit gets real. So congratulations to them. Also, congratulations to Kaylee Ray, NXT UK, former women's champion over there, got married as well, I think just a couple of days ago. So a couple of new wrestling couples. Happy for everyone there. Just wanted to mention that about Seth and Becky. I thought it was cool. WWE is officially back in Madison Square Garden on September 10th. This was kind of already known. This was leaked a few days ago, maybe even over a week ago or so. And I guess it's only now that WWE has actually confirmed this. But what's interesting about the September 10th SmackDown, which is going to be a SmackDown there at the Garden, is that just a couple of weeks later, on the 22nd, I believe, AEW is running Arthur Ashe Stadium. So there's been a lot of talk about that, AEW going into New York, and I think they've got another show in New York just a couple days early, or whatever. But I'm curious now that this can just be another little, battle between these two. I'm genuinely curious to see the attendance for both of these shows. The Garden show, WWE, they never sell out SmackDowns or Raws. Excuse me. They never really do that. But if they stack the show enough, they could draw a big card there in Madison Square Garden. So wrestling fans might benefit greatly in September with WWE and AEW trying to maybe outdo each other on their respective New York shows. And, for Dynamite to be in Arthur Ashe, that's a pretty big stadium. You would think, especially now with the way AEW, handles a lot of their booking. They do a lot of things in advance, and they plan for shit. They can stack their card up to be pretty impressive, and I'm genuinely curious which show is going to draw the bigger crowd. Go. Sorry about that, guys. That's the second or third time that's happened recently. Had a little bit of a mic problem. Sorry about that. I keep hitting it and it just shuts itself off. So I got to figure out a better setup so when I'm talking with my hands, that doesn't happen. But anyway, like I was saying about the New York shows for AEW and WWE, if they both stack the cards well, they could try to draw like a larger than normal audience. And I really can't wait to see. This isn't like the ratings. Ratings are different. These are people that are actually going to go to a show. Is there a reason to go to a show? So that might be, pretty telling. I don't think AEW is going to outdraw WWE or anything like that. But I think the two attendance numbers might be closer than the ratings are. Because right now, SmackDown, what they're doing, high ones, 2 million or so viewers per week, where AEW's, less than 1 million at this point. So, it's going to be curious to see how the live attendance measures up, especially for a show like this that's booked so far in advance in a big market with an opportunity for them, both companies really, to stack up big shows and big cards for those nights. So I'm excited for them going to New York. I think that's going to be fun, and it's going to be interesting to see how both of those shows shake out. We'll look for that in September after our crazy summer. Interesting backstage tidbit. Apparently, Sonjay Dutt, who was working backstage in WWE as an agent or producer, has vanished from the company and has turned up in AEW with the same job. So nobody really knows when this happened. All they know is Dutt was out of WWE and just danced his ass right over to AEW and now works backstage there. Good for him. I found that interesting. Thought I'd write it down and talk about it. Also, speaking of AEW, Darby Allin apparently is going to have a cameo in Jackass 4, which I think they're filming now. I do subscribe to Steve-O on YouTube. It's pretty amazing how he has turned his life around and how awesome of a dude he is compared to when he started. And I remember Jackass. I watched Jackass from the very beginning because Jackass was on MTV when WWE was with Sunday Night Heat. And a lot of times, Jackass, I think, would precede Sunday Night Heat, if I remember right. I think Jackass came on first, then Heat, and then sometimes the pay-per-view if it was that time of the month. So I've always liked the Jackass guys, even though they faced some problems, they faced some tragedies, and they faced some happy endings like Steve-O. They've had that death with Ryan Dunn, and Bam Margera is out of this movie, and apparently he's a complete fucking mess and needs serious help. He is the Marty Jannetty of that crew, and everybody's hoping that he'll be all right. So it's going to be a different take and a different twist on this movie, but seeing Darby Allin in there, he's already done he did the body bag drop-in, right, with Steve-O recently on a Dynamite, maybe last year. I don't remember when that was. So he's already he fit right in there. So who knows what he'll be doing there? Probably nothing too dangerous. Apparently Shaq is going to be a part of that as well. So I found that interesting. Thought I would write it down. Other than that, in terms of wrestling news, before we get into NXT and Dynamite, figured I'd talk a little bit, for a minute, about the Bully Ray comments on Eddie Kingston. I did listen to them. This Eddie Kingston promo, still after the fact, long after everybody should have forgotten about it. Everybody is still talking about it and still weighing in on it. And I don't really care what anybody's opinions are. I know what my feelings are. I think if anybody is upset at that, you're just no fun. You just got to stick up your ass and you're boring. And this is the way it's always been done. All the way to, the 70s and 80s and the 90s, every era of wrestling, when there are competing territories, they take shots at each other. Even before technology, this was going on. So it's nothing new. And why the fans today, I guess these new age or these modern fans, feel like these wrestling companies aren't allowed to play by the same rules and they always got to throw those yeah buts in there. There is no yeah but. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the promo that he cut. Nothing at all. I thought it was fun. It's fun when the companies take shots at each other. WWE does the same thing. They can be even more petty and even worse on a lot of occasions. That's what made the Monday Night Wars so fun. So I fully was I was just totally fine with Eddie and his comments. Thought there was really nothing wrong with them. But it stirred up such shit online. And it just allowed people to, basically let their biases hang out. All of a sudden, Eddie, you can't talk about WWE because you didn't work there. Well, that's a weird thing that's a weird rule to all of a sudden make up, because that wasn't the rule before. Eric Bischoff never worked for WWE. He attacked them on a weekly basis and gave away their results. So by that logic, you can finger point a lot of people that have done the same thing. That's a flimsy excuse. And so that was kind of what was the crux of Bully Ray's argument here, is he went on his podcast and he put over Eddie in terms of how, they kind of have a similar promo style. He respects his tone, his inflection, his delivery. He's a lot like Taz in a lot of ways as well, and they've got that, kind of hardcore, intense promo cutting style that he does appreciate. But then he goes on to say that Eddie Kingston should shut his fucking mouth and stay in his lane, arguing that because he didn't work for WWE, that somehow that somehow disqualifies him from being allowed to make comments on WWE or to go out there and just have fun with the fans or rile them up. And you got to remember, this is all off air. That's what's even funnier, is you can't even cut an off-air promo now without the snowflakes, getting all upset and bent out of shape about it, and just using that as a way to basically anybody who has a problem with Eddie Kingston's promo, let me translate that for you all. They don't like AEW. That's all it is. That's all it is. Because for them to twist everything around so badly and come up with excuses as to why AEW isn't allowed to follow the same rules that every single promotion that came before them followed, they're somehow disqualified. They're not allowed. They try to make it to where they're biased. Sounds like it's not so biased. Well, and that's when they start coming up with those excuses. Well, he shouldn't have said it because he didn't work for WWE. I'm like, well, then you have no fucking clue whatsoever about wrestling history at all. Because I can think of hundreds of guys that are probably guilty of the same thing Eddie Kingston did. And Bully Ray is the craziest part about this, because where he came from, where he made his name, how the Dudley Boys got over. This displays, like I said earlier, just a jaw-dropping lack of self-awareness in terms of where he came from and how he even got recognized in wrestling to begin with, was in ECW, was working for Paul Heyman, who, in Tommy Dreamer's own words, said Paul Heyman made it to where he would talk and speak about WWE and WCW as if they were the Taliban, as if they were Al-Qaeda, as if they were the worst places you could possibly work, on television every week, on their pay-per-views, shots at both companies on their promo. They took a shit on both companies on a constant basis and were praised for it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beginning and the genesis and the foundation of what would become the Stone Cold character, was born in Paul Heyman's basement, shitting on WCW, talking about Dusty Rhodes, airing out his grievances about not winning the U.S. title and being put in a tag team with Brian Pillman and then breaking up Brian Pillman, complaining about the booking. Now, when a fired WWE wrestler goes on a podcast and says the same thing, those same exact people that had a rock-hard erection for Stone Cold doing it are all of a sudden saying, oh, they just sound petty. John Moxley famously has said a lot of things here and there. He doesn't even harp on it. He just mentions a couple of things, mentions a couple of comparisons to WWE. The one he recently said was something about promos, how it annoyed him trying to cut promos into WWE because the writers add 50,000 extra words in there that aren't necessary. And fans took that as Moxley's bitter. Oh, he can't resist, just trashing WWE. Get over it. Move on. Are you telling Did you tell Steve Austin to move on? Probably not, because you weren't fucking born, because you don't know anything about wrestling history. These things have always been done. And Bully Ray, of all people, from where he came from, the Dudley Boys, Devon used to run around doing the people's elbow in Dudley Boys matches, making fun of The Rock and how ridiculous that move was before he ever worked for WWE. The shit they would say in promos, the things Paul Heyman would say about both companies. They were maybe a little more hardcore on WCW because they did work with WWE a little bit. But even when they were working with them, taking money from them, they still shit on them. And ECW is widely and universally beloved by most wrestling fans across the board. I'm sure you'll find some who think ECW wasn't their cup of tea, but for the most part, ECW was very loved, and they were praised for being like that. They were praised for being brash enough to call out the big boys on the playground. When they didn't have the resources, talent, money, or anything to really compete with them, they still showed no fear. And here Eddie Kingston is, who's this like hardcore New Yorker, who New Yorkers should appreciate because of, they're all loudmouth and angry and pissed off at everything all the time. So all of a sudden, just because these people probably don't like AEW, they're trying to invent reasons that don't exist, invent reasons why Eddie Kingston shouldn't be allowed to say these things, when everybody else in wrestling history prior to him was allowed to say so. He is not. And the reasons they come up with to justify this argument are fucking ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. So Bully Ray I like, but Bully Ray's take is wrong. It's, it makes no sense for him just to say because Eddie Kingston didn't work there, he needs to stay in his lane. Oh my God. Oh brother, stay in your lane. That's about as overused as living rent free in your head. If I have to hear any one of those two phrases anymore, why don't you just hold up a sign that says I'm an uncreative motherfucker whenever you say these things? So Bully Ray, I just thought that was a strange take. For him, of all people, it's not like Bully Ray is like, I would expect maybe Nick Bockwinkel to say that or something. Like, this is Bully Ray. This is Bully Ray that worked for ECW, this company that spent its entire existence reacting and trolling the other federations out there. And this was done on TV, on pay-per-view, in front of the world. Eddie Kingston off air says a few words, and everybody gets their panties in a bunch. Where's your fun? What happened to wrestling fans? They used to be fun. I used to go to shows in the Attitude Era, in the 90s, in the early 2000s. People had a good time. No one was walking around with a fucking umbrella up their ass. People were having fun. They liked it, especially when companies were called out. I was at the Monday Night Raw in Hampton, Virginia, when DX went to Norfolk and invaded Nitro with the tank, not the Jeep. Or I'm sorry, the Jeep, not the tank. And they played that on the Titantron for the audience in the crowd that night, and we were shitting our pants. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. Everybody was marking out. Not one person in the audience was saying, oh, they should really concentrate on their own product. They were like, oh, it's on now. And that was on Raw. Everybody loved it. Seeing the two companies acknowledge each other, taking shots back at one another, making fun of the talent. Eddie Kingston does not truly believe in his heart that WWE wrestlers have no heart and passion, because as bad as the WWE product is, the only thing that's saving them is their talent. Every week on Raw, when they just have this piss poor shit, up until the last couple of weeks were actually good, but recently on Raw, the only thing, we've said every single week, you know what? Despite the bullshit, there was really good wrestling on the show. So, maybe that's one part of Kingston's promo that I don't really agree with, but I don't really, deep down in my heart, think that he believes that. It's just something to say to get a reaction from the crowd, and to, add to that competition. It's not something that offended me, or whatever. Like, it seemed to offend more, so many people. And like I said before, the people online and on social media that seemed to be the most offended by this are the types of people who claim they don't like people who are easily offended. SJWs and cancel culture and snowflakes. All these people hate those things. But yet, they acted like a little bitch when Eddie Kingston made these comments, got their panties all riled up, trying to invent reasons with their keyboards as to why Eddie isn't allowed to do what everybody before him has done. And they just come up with shit that makes no sense. And it's just completely and totally controlled by anti-AEW biased. And I'm not so pro-AEW. I mean, for the people on the other side, for the AEW cult members, hate to break it to you, as much as I love your company, I hope for a second you don't think that they've got a better talent roster than WWE. They don't. Not even close. Not even the same fucking universe. But that doesn't mean that AEW doesn't deserve to be on TV. That doesn't mean AEW doesn't have great talent there. They do, but when you're comparing it to WWE and they've got 4 fucking brands and hundreds of wrestlers under contract, they got the better talent. Sorry to break it to you, which is why a lot of their crappy booking is saved by the excellent athletes they have there. So I just wish fans were a little bit more honest with themselves, and it's like, people who, don't like LeBron. They say he sucks. I'm like, well, you're just showing your idiocy. Because he doesn't suck. It's okay not to like him, but to take your dislike for somebody to such a level that you make up incorrect shit, LeBron James, that's like me saying Michael Jordan sucks. He doesn't, you just don't like him. So stop making shit up, stop bullshitting yourself, and just try to be honest and think like a fucking adult. So I think people need just to stay in their own lane, really, because when you think about it, this should have been a forgettable promo. Should be something that Eddie Kingston said, got a few words on social media about it, and left it alone. But unfortunately, the IWC doesn't operate like that. They have to take everything to the 10th degree. They have to take everything so overboard, and now it's been, over a week or a few days or whatever it's been, and people are still talking about this off-air promo that shouldn't have gotten any more than 24 hours of attention. But it's still going on. So what does that tell you? It means the promo did mean something. because if they got this many people talking and it got this much of a reaction, show me the downside to cutting it. Like it's you got people in both camps. People like the promo, people who didn't. But, the buzz it's creating is getting Eddie Kingston's name floating around social media a lot. And to argue against that is just silly to me. And it's just dumb. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Bully Ray, Eddie Kingston stuff. And they are really similar when you think about it, to their characters. I just thought Bully Ray of all people would actually appreciate comments like that, considering where he came from and how he even got recognized to begin with in a company that did that shit all the time. Now he's going to sit on his throne and say it can't be done. Get the fuck out of here. And he did say that and that's another thing that I thought was ridiculous. He said that, if Cody wants to smash the throne, that's okay. Or if Jericho wants to talk about the ratings, that's okay. They can do it, but Eddie can't. That's ridiculous. There has never been a rule before, up until June, whatever he said these comments on yesterday. Up until the summer of 2021, there has never been a rule that said if you've never worked for the other company, you can't criticize them. It's fucking stupid. It's laughable that these are the type of excuses that people come up with. That's stupid. Anybody who thinks that. So anyway, we'll move on from that. We'll get into a little bit of NXT notes, and then we'll talk about Dynamite because it was a really good show. We got to talk about JR. We'll be talking about JR as well. If you guys can tap that thumbs up button for me, I would appreciate it. Click that notifications bell, too, while you're at it, and subscribe so you know when I'm up here. Didn't get a full look at NXT this week, but I liked what I saw. First of all, we got a brand new North American champion. Isaiah Swerve Scott beat Bronson Reed for the title, so Bronson's title run was very short-lived. To me, this has a main roster call-up written all over it. He was one of the ones that got, I think, a main event match or a dark match. They did bring him to SmackDown and brought him to the Thunderdome to kind of test him out. I guess they liked what they saw, and he dropped the belt here. Swerve had a whole lot of help from Hit Row. Bronson disposed of everybody, including AJ, who just threw him right through the glass or the barricade, which was a pretty awesome spot. And as he's trying to get in the ring, I think he's maybe drop kicked by Swerve, and he basically is laying face down on the bottom rope. Swerve hits a 450 splash on top of him for the win and a really good finish. So had a lot of help from his crew, but Hit Row has been getting over so far, and to put some gold with them is probably the right move, especially if you're going to bump Reed up to the main roster. And it also makes me wonder what they're going to do with Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross also had that main event match against Shelton Benjamin. They're trying to get an idea for him. It feels like he might have a call-up imminent as well, and if that's the case, that means they'll probably be taking the belt off of Kross a lot earlier than intended. Now, they're setting up on TV, it looks like, to do Kross and Gargano, which is interesting because I thought Kross, if he's going to drop that belt, it might have to be to somebody like a Bronson Reed or like a Walter or someone like that, So if he is, going to pass the belt to Gargano, I'm happy for Johnny Wrestling because I don't think Gargano would really have much of a life on the main roster. I don't trust WWE at all with him on the main roster, similar to how I don't trust them with Adam Cole. Their size has a lot to do with that, but, size isn't everything, and I think that they would just be in trouble there where, Kross, might do a little better. So if they want to bring Kross up now, looks like they might split him with Scarlett, which I don't think is a good idea. And I talked about this last week for the people that think Kross is so good that WWE can't fuck him up. I give you Exhibit A. Yes, they can, and they will. And I worry what will happen to him as well. And if he is going to be moved up, that means he might need to drop the belt too. And Gargano beating him for the title would do wonders for Gargano's NXT legacy. He might go down as that top Rushmore figure if he's able to pull that off. So we'll see. Looks like he's kind of on the verge of going babyface again as well. And everything they did on Tuesday, was funny. Was great, I should say, with the brawl in the back, and then they came out to the ring. Kross cut a promo. Gargano came out. They brawled at the ringside area, and then they brawled outside. Gargano, I think, attacked Kross when he's getting in his car, slammed the door on his head a couple of times, and then made the mistake of turning his back on Kross, and Kross rose up and just choked him out and damn near ran him over until Samoa Joe made the save. So, I kind of thought when Joe was brought in as this as this enforcer that it would eventually lead to a match with him and Kross. I think Joe beating Kross would maybe be a little bit more believable than Gargano doing it, but I wouldn't even be opposed to Gargano doing it because I like Johnny. But, Cross, this big badass who's choking people out should maybe get choked out himself, and Samoa Joe might just be the guy to do that. So if they are going to move up Karrion Kross, that makes me think he's going to be dropping the belt soon, whether it be to Gargano or possibly even Samoa Joe, and head up to the main roster. And there was also some speculation that might be, as stupid as this is, it might be part of the reason why we saw Nikki Cross turn into the superheroes, because they don't want two crosses, which they've done that before. I remember they changed Shane Helms. They didn't want him. They didn't want two Shanes with Shane and McMahon and Shane. So I know they've done a few things like this before. I hope if they move up Adam Cole to the main roster, they don't change his name. I think we should change Michael Cole's name just to Dumbass, and that way we can have Michael Cole, or I'm sorry, we can have Adam Cole and just Corey Graves and Dumbass on the mic, and that way nobody will get the two Coles confused. So let's try to get that changed. Tweet WWE. Just tell him to change Michael's name to Dumbass. That would be nice. I'd tell him myself, but he blocked me on Twitter. So anyway, NXT still solid, operating on all cylinders right now. I think everything they've been doing has been really good since moving to Tuesdays. I think that was the right call. They can kind of focus a little bit more on their own shit, not worry about ratings and what the other show is doing, and just do their thing. And it's the one pocket of WWE that seems to go, for the most part, really well. And I'm glad we saw kind of an early surprise title change there. That wasn't what I was expecting. The North American title, actually, since its inception, has been hot potatoed quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of guys holding it, and they've held it for really short runs. Even Leon Ruff, had it for that short time. I think Ricochet had it for a spell, correct? Help me out with everybody else, but it's got a lot of names attached to it. So that's kind of fun, that it's a belt that is going to change hands frequently. It's makes things fun. So anyway, NXT's doing well, but that's really all I had written down for the show was whatever they're doing with Cross, Gargano, and Joe, and our new North American champion. So anyway, that brings us to last night's Dynamite, and I thought this was just a fantastic show. Spectacular show from Daley's Place. The final Dynamite at Daley's Place until August 4th. They're going to be going on the road, and they got a lot of shows planned for July, and they got a couple big ones planned in for September with All Out as well. So they got a lot of things on the horizon, and things are looking really good in AEW land right now. And last night was just a great show from top to bottom. There was really good wrestling on the show, great opener, great closer, a lot of good stuff in between, and I thoroughly enjoyed Dynamite last night. It was a great way, I think, to close out Daley's Place. And it was fun. The tag match opened things up. It was Penta and Eddie Kingston taking on the Young Bucks, who are now full-on porn star mode with the mustaches and the spray tans and the crazy-ass outfits. They're hilarious. Now, the stipulation here is that if the Young Bucks lost, Penta and Eddie would get a title shot, I believe, at the next show. Yeah, next week, Road Rager. They would get a title shot here. So they kind of telegraphed the outcome here, but that's all right. It was still a really good match and a really fun match and a hilarious kind of finish there with Brandon Cutler's got the cold spray, and he's spraying one of the Bucks or whatever, and it's like he knows he's fucking up, but he can't. He's so freaked out that he's fucking up, he can't stop spraying it. He's spraying, going oh my god. That was hilarious. It set up the finish, allowing Penta and Kingston to get the win in a really fun and exciting opener. And now they get a title shot next week. I don't expect them to win that. I just feel like they won't. I would have rather seen Eddie and Mox win the tag titles than Eddie and Penta. Not that they can't be fun tag team champions, but I almost think the Bucks, now that they're in full douchebag mode, just keep getting that heat for a little while longer before you take the straps away from them and make it a really big deal. So we'll see. I can't see Penta and Eddie getting 2 consecutive wins over them on back-to-back weeks. So I think the Bucks will keep the belts next week, but still a really fun opening match and a hilarious finish. Congratulations to Jungle Boy, who got his 50th win last night, the first AEW wrestler to ever reach 50 wins. Pretty cool. They're still teasing. He beat Jack Evans, by the way, in a one-on-one match to get that 50th win, and they're still teasing the feud between him and Christian that is absolutely inevitable because Christian Cage keeps approaching him backstage, and this time Christian basically just did all the talking, and Jungle Boy didn't say anything. I think this is kind of twofold. Number one, Jungle Boy's not that great at promos, and number two, it's almost like it's kind of foreshadowing that he's starting to tune Christian out a little bit, or maybe even see through a little bit of his bullshit. But eventually, I think Christian is going to turn on him. Some sort of feud or match is going to happen here 100%. So they continued to set that up, and congrats to a Jungle Boy. 50 wins in AEW. Pretty cool. The big tag team match that was advertised took place as well. Britt Baker and Rebel taking on Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero, who actually got in the ring and wrestled. I thought they might pull an Eva Marie. I thought she might try to do something to get out of the match or whatever, but she did get in there, take a couple of shots and a couple of bumps or whatever. Rebel took a sick spill and got injured. She had to be taken away by the medical staff. Dislocated kneecap on Rebel. I have no idea the timetable on a rehab of an injury like that, but hopefully she will be back sooner rather than later. That sucks. Sorry to hear that happened to her. I think it was Vicky Guerrero who's the one that ate the claw and tapped out. So Baker and Rebel won that. And to add insult to injury, Rebel is injured, and Baker had also taken a nasty spill after the match. Nyla Rose grabbed Britt and powerbombed her off the apron through a table to the floor, which looked nasty. And those two are set to have an AEW title match, I believe, on night 2 of Fyter Fest, which is July 21st. Wednesday. Night 1 will be the previous week, July 14th, which has a FTW title match scheduled between Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. So Nyla and Baker will go on one-on-one for the gold on night 2 of Fyter Fest. And I like that. That's still 3 weeks away. You know, they're treating a lot of their TV shows, you know, like pay-per-views. I like these little special events that they run, you know, because they could do Nyla and Britt Baker at Road Rager or at night 1, but no, they're just singling out night 2. You know, so it now gives you an early reason to tune in on the 21st. I like this. I like that they book in advance like that. It makes their TV feel important instead of just copy and paste it. Because even SmackDown does that. Even SmackDown, you knew 100% the other week when Rollins and Bailey were in the ring, and then Cesaro and Bianca came out, mixed tag. You know, it's like, you know, they just kind of do the same shit every week. Here, they actually try to plan stuff out and put things on the horizon for you to look forward to. And it's working for them. I like it. So we get Britt defending the title. I don't know why. I mean, they're both kind of technically heels, and there's nobody in the company right now that I feel like I would like to see take the belt off Baker. Maybe you guys have some favorites. I don't. Right now, I think Baker is the person to keep the belt for a while. So Britt just won it. I am not having her drop it to Nyla. And we'll see if that leads, you know, maybe to more of a babyface run for Britt Baker. We'll have to see, because it felt like she was the babyface last night. So we'll see where they go from there, and hopefully Rebel will be okay. They're finally, after all this time, another really cool thing that AEW does is they take their time with shit. I've been saying, we've all been saying, a lot of us have been saying for weeks and months, maybe even close to a year now, before Omega even won the title, you felt like, okay, Omega's probably going to win the title, and the person to take it off of him will inevitably be Hangman Page. We've said that since the beginning, and it looks like finally now they're going to be setting up for that. Omega came out to the ring looking ridiculous, cut a hilarious promo, ridiculous promo, one that kind of mirrored Roman Reigns a little bit on SmackDown, when Roman and Heyman were largely saying the same thing, like, I'm out of challengers, there's just nothing left to do, so I have no choice but to, and that's when Edge came out. And Omega kind of does the same thing here, and that's when the Dark Order comes out, and they nominate their good buddy, Hangman Page, and they finally plant the seeds for that, which I'm guessing will probably be All Out. How can you not do that at All Out? And they showed their support for Paige. Even did a backstage segment later on where Paige is with them, and they're like kind of really trying to give him that pep talk and say, come on, man, we got your back. We believe in you. Even if you go out there and lose to him, we still believe in you. And I just really like the story that's told with their relationship as well, with Paige and the Dark Order, because if this was WWE, the stuff that they did in the first few weeks there, they would just get tired of it, and it would just like almost evaporate. Like, it would just kind of not be a thing anymore. And they've really stuck with this, and they've made a story here. So I think Page is going to be the guy. I think that'll be your all-out match. It'll be Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, and I'm glad that they're finally starting to set that up. Omega's going to have a couple of challengers between now and then, but I think inevitably it should be the Hangman to be champion, and that would be a nice full circle moment for him. 2 years, just about. A little bit less than 2 years after being in the inaugural AEW title match and losing to Jericho, coming back now and beating Kenny Omega for it after their history in the Elite, tag team champions, all that stuff. I was there on the Jericho cruise when they won the titles. So it would be a big, long-term booked storyline. Wow. I'll be damned. That shit exists in wrestling. Pretty awesome. TNT title was also on the line last night. Brian Pillman Jr. challenged Miro. I believe that was a title match. Brian Pillman Jr. did not win, of course, but he put up a good fight. It was good to see him involved in that way. Him and Griff Garrison, the Varsity Blondes, are evolving nicely. They're progressing nicely. I like Brian Pillman a lot. I thought this was a perfect match to book him in because he is extremely overmatched here with Miro, and I'm liking this Miro. Help me out. Was that new music, or am I just stupid for Miro? He's got a much more – he's come a long way, basically, since – the video game shit. And his first few weeks there, when they were kind of figuring it out and the wedding and everything, I was like, I feel like they could be doing better with Miro. Now they are. Once they gave him that TNT title shot against Darby Allin and he broke him in half, it's going to be very difficult to take that belt off of Miro. I'm not sure who could do it. In a couple of weeks, they've got the FTW title on the line with Starks and Cage, and I think Team Taz is going to implode there. I feel like Cage is going to go babyface. If that happens and Team Taz fucks Cage over, takes control of the FTW title, which is what I think that match is designed to do, then I think Cage could be a fun challenger for Miro as well down the line, because as big as Miro is, you're not going to have a Darby or somebody like that beat him. It's going to have to be somebody big. So, unless you do Lance Archer again or something like that, it's got to be somebody big. And so I think Brian Cage could be a possibility for a future opponent and maybe even challenger for Miro. And he might even win the title. So we'll see. But good outing by Brian Pillman Jr. Just fun to see him in there wrestling, even though Miro's killing him the whole time. He got some offense in. Miro gave him some stuff, which was good, made the kid look good, and in the end, tacked out to the accolade. So good effort by Brian Pillman, and he's getting there. This kid's only going to get better, and I'm glad that AEW isn't rushing things. They recognize that he's young. They recognize that he's green. They recognize that he still has to learn, and he's been doing well. He's MLW and now here, and he's had some years under his belt now, and he's just getting more reps and getting better and growing and getting older and gaining experience. And, they're not just putting him out there just for the sake of being Brian Pillman's kid and give him title belts and all of that. They're making him work, so that's nice to see. Nobody's, probably a lot of people are getting jobs due to like nepotism and stuff like that, like Brock Anderson and stuff, but it's not like they're throwing these people right out there in world title situations. They're gonna have to prove themselves first, and Jungle Boy and Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman Jr. and guys like that are all having to do that. So, doesn't feel like anybody there is being pushed too hard, too quick, or being put in situations or spotlights that are too big for their level of experience. Maybe it happened at the beginning a couple times. I think, when AEW first started, a lot of that talent had not been on live TV before. So there's a good growth period there. But in terms of, how they run things overall, that stuff I think is handled really well. And the main event, my God, MJF and Sammy Guevara. I mean, I knew this was going to be good. I was looking forward to it all week. It's been one of the better built feuds. It's like a side feud. MJF's big issue has always been with Jericho, and Sammy's is with Shawn Spears. But these two have come together because they are, kind of similar. They are very young, and Sammy Guevara, much like MJF, got big rubs from working with him, and they're both really good athletes. And Jericho was on commentary throughout all of Dynamite, and he said something very true. He said MJF is deceptively athletic, and there was a lot of that on display here with these guys. I feel like Sammy has got MJF beat in the athleticism department, but MJF held his own here, and this was a great match from start to finish. Like I said earlier, if you have suggestions or candidates for what you think the best AEW TV match has been so far, I'd like to hear them, because this one is at the top of my list. It was really good, and there was a couple of insane spots. They even started out hot. They were doing some great chain wrestling at first, that I wasn't sure if they were quite experienced enough to pull off to like a Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit degree, but they did really well, and it was exciting beginning. I think we do at least one pitcher and pitcher during this whole thing, and that's when things really start picking up. And they were just their chemistry was really good. They were working well together. You would think that these two behind the scenes would probably be like natural rivals. I'm not saying they're on The Rock and Steve Austin's level. I'm not comparing them to those two, but in terms of where they are in the card, two young guys, trying to get who's going to be the first one of them to reach the AEW title. I think it's going to be MJF. I think he's got more world title potential than Sammy Guevara, but they're kind of on that same level on the roster, and they're both trying to get over that hump and make it to that next level. And it's, they work extremely well together, and that comes through, and you can feel that. And my God, Sammy, 0 fucks given. MJF is on the other side of the barricade, I believe, on the outside of the ring, and Guevara climbs to the top rope and springboard somersault into the crowd, lands on MJF, ricochets off chairs, and just took a really hard, nasty landing for both of them. That was an ECW Rob Van Dam type of spot there. It reminded me of that. Remember when Rob jumped off? I think maybe he's facing Bam Bam Bigelow. Might have been Taz, can't remember. And he jumped from the ring all the way over, somersault flip into the crowd. It was nuts. And Sammy Guevara pulled off that spot, and it looked great. It wasn't botched. It didn't even look set up. Like how a lot of these dives, you see it really bad in WWE, probably even worse in WWE than in AEW, although AEW does do it as well. MJF wasn't there just kind of like waiting to catch him. I mean, it really looked like it was spontaneous. Sammy climbed up to the ropes really quickly. He didn't take a ton of time up there and immediately dove off, and he just, bam, slammed right into MJF. It was a great-looking spot. And if that wasn't the spot of the night, I damn near had a heart attack after the middle rope tombstone. Sammy Guevara gets crotched on the top rope, and then fucking MJF gets up on the top, and he basically flips him over his head into tombstone pile driver position. And Jericho says he's not seen this in the States in a while. I know Jerry Lynn did it in ECW once. I can't recall too many times I've seen something like this. This was fucking nuts. And a middle rope springboard tombstone pile driver. You are risking your life, risking it bad. And they nailed it perfectly. The way Sammy Guevara sold it, he kind of came up with his neck, kind of crinked like that. And MJF immediately sold a knee, and hit it, and it just looked good. Those two spots could have easily been botched, and they were, I think, executed to perfection. They both looked incredible. So that just added to what was already a great match. They did the disqualification, or not disqualification, but the distraction or the interference finish here, which is fine with me because you're going to have to set up something with Sammy and Shawn Spears, and Jericho and MJF, I don't think are really truly done with their issue yet either. So near the end of the match, Shawn Spears makes his way through the aisle. Since Jericho is on commentary, he jumps off headset. He goes, nope, I'm going to stop this before it gets started. He goes off to head off Shawn Spears, but he's attacked from behind by Wardlow, basically like in front of the ring on that little stage or that little platform that sits right in front of the audience. So Wardlow's beating the shit out of Jericho, and he's like, hey, ref, look what I'm doing. Of course, the referee turns to go see what's going on. Shawn Spears takes the chair, bam, nails Sammy Guevara. Sammy is out, and MJF is able to cover him and get the win and win the match. So I'm okay with that. I want a match that long that they gave us, I think, close to 30 minutes. I would prefer a clean finish in that scenario, but based on all the players here and everything going on and what Sammy is going to do in his next program, I'm almost okay with it this one time because, it made sense in storyline, and props to them for taking this Inner Circle and Pinnacle feud, one that has already had a Stadium Stampede and a War Games match and all this other stuff, and now they're branching it off to continue. Now they're branching it off in Sammy and Shawn, Jericho and MJF, Proud and Powerful FTR. That's cool. So it's they're not just burning it all out. We're so programmed in WWE's style of booking that it's kind of refreshing when you're expecting something to kind of be done and over, and then it's not, and now they're finding more ways to, get mileage out of this and mileage out of these feuds instead of just shooting their load all at once. You got to work it. Got to work it, baby. So that's what they're doing. I like it. Great stuff last night. This is, to me, what I want out of professional wrestling. Give me a company out there that's just not going to do the same goddamn shit that the other guys do, and I'm going to be happy. And that's what they were doing. And last night's Dynamite was great. Now, if all of that wasn't good enough, like I said, a very solid episode of Dynamite. They closed out with an extremely well-done, fantastic, and emotional video package highlighting the last 15 months at Daley's place that began when the pandemic started with Cody Rhodes in that empty ring, cutting a promo. I think he was joined by Kenny Omega, maybe a few other people I don't remember. And when you think back to those times, because I remember we were, pandemic TV here on the channel. I was home. I was unemployed. I had nothing to do. Couldn't even leave the house. We talked about this a lot. We all watched this together. And to think about the last 15 months, that journey we've been on in pro wrestling, not here just in AEW, but WWE too, all of their changes and the Thunderdome and WWE, to their credit, much like AEW, despite a pandemic, was able to give us some really memorable moments. Roman Reigns was born. The Tribal Chief was born in this pandemic era, which is arguably probably the best character across all of professional wrestling right now. So both companies managed to do business despite this. But I think where AEW deserves a little bit more credit is that you got to remember they were on TV for 6 months when this global pandemic hit that killed their momentum and took away all their fans. And it's basically like, okay, here you go, brand new wrestling company that's barely even been around long enough to, to have any sort of a history or legacy or experience doing anything. And we're going to give you a scenario and a situation that's never happened before in this world, where all sports and all forms of entertainment are completely shut down. Show us what you got. And that video package highlighted what they got. I mean, that was despite everything, and AEW wasn't perfect, because there's plenty of things sometimes when I watch Dynamite or I watch a pay-per-view, I'm like, why do they always do that? They have those issues. Not saying they don't, but overall, for them to be hit like that, a company that put all that money into getting started and getting launched, and before they can even get their feet wet, you've got the pandemic that hits. And that's why I always laughed so hard at people who, another one of their like flimsy little criticisms of AEW, man, I feel like they're starting to go downhill. Like, what do you mean starting to go downhill? They don't even have a history yet. They are brand new. They still got vagina juice behind the ear. I mean, they're literally just born here. They haven't even learned to walk yet. And this shit is happening, and fans are, I think they're starting to lose it. I'm like, you got to give them time. They've had 3 times more non-pandemic shows than pandemic shows. You know what I mean? Like, they've had to do this for so long, and they're so new, and they were able to give us everything that was shown in that video package, which was sprinkled in with a lot of very emotional Brody Lee footage and his death and everything. It was a good year. They did good stuff. Sting's return and Snoop and Mike Tyson and, some of these great matches that they managed to have, just like WWE has managed to do. Despite the pandemic, we've had some good pay-per-views, even though they've been in front of a video wall. Same thing at Daley's place. Same thing with AEW. They're presented with something that nobody's ever been presented with before, and they're already new, and they're just, it's like, they're just trusted to figure it out. And they did, and they survived, and now they're going back on the road. And that momentum that was really killed, I can't believe that they were able to sustain and maintain anything to where when they do go back on the road, people do want to come see them. Because they didn't have a very long time to really build that live event, that live event experience and give the fans an idea of what you can see when you go to those shows. They haven't even been around long enough to do that. So when I watched that video package, it was kind of like they really did have a pretty good 15 months under the circumstances. And like I said, you got to be fair and honest. It's not all perfect, but man, like considering what they had to go through, considering their age, considering how long they've been at this, they had some very memorable moments at Daley's place in the last 15 months. A lot of debuts, some people jumping ship, a lot of title changes, a couple of sad moments, a couple of happy moments. And, overall, I think they managed the whole situation extremely well. And it could have gone a lot worse for them, if, considering that wrestling just took a hit in general during the pandemic. All numbers are down. People don't have time. When you're facing a pandemic and you're unemployed and your life is different, all of a sudden wrestling becomes less important. A lot of wrestling fans were affected by that as well. So naturally, business, ratings, everything in general are going to go down. But now we're to the point where everything's kind of coming back together, back out on the road, back touring. I went into a store yesterday without a mask on, that sort of thing. It's awesome. So I think that AEW did a very good job staying in one place for every show for 15 months. And still being able to sell pay-per-views and, apparently sell tickets when they go back out on the road. So very, very, very good video package to close the show. And then they weren't done right when the video package was finished. Jim Ross is signing off For Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho and Excalibur, I'm Jim Ross. Thank you for watching WWE Dynamite. Or I think he said there's nothing in your life that will be better than watching a WWE Dynamite show live. And then they fade to black. Oh, JR. So, of course, this is 2021. This is 2021 wrestling Twitter. And you're not allowed to make these type of mistakes. And poor Jim Ross is going to just get eviscerated on social media for this. This is a guy that worked 20-plus years in WWE. He still works with them, sort of. He's in all those A&E biographies, and, he does stuff where he's constantly talking about WWE. WWE is still ingrained in his head. I know for a fact when I've done these podcasts before, I've called AEW WWE or something like that. And Jim Ross is a legend. Yes, he's getting old, and yes, he's, maybe get a little bit more confused here and there, but he's still a legend, and he needs to be treated with respect. And fans don't use this as a reason just to attack him, because fans don't know how to criticize. There's probably people telling Jim Ross to kill himself. That's how crazy the fans get. Let me explain something to you fans, because the only people that would say these things are people too young to know anything about wrestling history. There's a guy named Gordon Soley. Look him up. Google him. I guarantee you, if you put Gordon Soley behind the announce booth on a Monday Night Raw in the year 2000, he isn't even going to know what the fuck is going on. It is a completely different environment than what he was used to. Jim Ross is old school. He is an old school announcer that has somehow managed to flourish in modern wrestling, with the Attitude Era. He was such a great storyteller with his sound bites and the way he could just, elaborate and tell the stories in the ring. He is not that same JR. He's a different JR. And that JR in WWE, that JR, Attitude Era WWE JR, was different than WCW JR. And here we are now. JR is many years older. JR's had a very long life, a lot of it filled with heartache and tragedy, Bell's palsy, the loss of his wife, health issues, multiple health issues, and just on top of that, his age and what happens to you when you just get older and you have health problems. But he's still Jim Ross. He still has a voice. He can still do his job, but every now and then, he will slip up. And this isn't the first time he called Kenny Omega the WWE champion. Lex Luger said WWE on Nitro one time when he jumped ship, because he just came from WWF. And he said WWF on Nitro. So, or maybe it was Saturday Night or somewhere. He said it somewhere in an interview with Mean Gene. So it happens, and things like this happen. And whenever it happens, I just kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, oh shit, because I know how fans can be. And Jim Ross does not deserve, I guarantee he does not deserve some of the shit he's probably dealt with in the last few hours on social media. He owned up to it right away. He tweeted, he goes, apparently I made a mistake. I own it. It's my bad. It's on me. I'm not quitting. So of course he's got to hear all those people make opinions about his life that they don't know anything about. Some asshole who claims to be a smart killer who works at Wendy's is going to tell Jim Ross what he should or should not do with his professional wrestling career. And that's the type of stuff that I wish Jim Ross wouldn't have said it, only because he's of the hate he's going to get. And I don't think, just respect your elders. At the end of the day, what JR did, it's probably not the greatest thing. It probably is not wonderful or whatever, but it's if you can't look at the humor in it, then I just don't think you're really a very happy person. Even the Young Bucks changed their bio today to say that Penta and Eddie Kingston would not beat them next week on WWE Dynamite. If you can't laugh at yourself, if you can't own up to it, and if you can't, and we've learned, if the Eddie Kingston promo has taught us anything, is that fans don't let stuff go. They don't know how. So they're not just going to be able to brush that off. Oh, Jim Ross said WWE again. Yikes, yeesh. And then move on with your day, like I did. Part of me laughed. Part of me felt bad for JR, because we love JR, and JR's, like every one of you here, most of you who are maybe not too old, you probably have grandparents, right? Hasn't your grandpa ever got confused where he was? Or said something wrong? Did you yell at him? My grandma would, well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because actually was the favorite grandson. But when my grandmother would say a grandkid's name, she would roll through all the kids' names first, to get to them. Greg or Troy or Eric or Jill or Nikki. I mean, Ryan, she would go through all of them. We'd say, get it together, Grandma. Maybe you need to stop being a grandma. You should retire from being a grandma if you don't even know our names. Would you say that to your grandma? Would you say that to your grandpa? Give him a break. Give him a break. JR's nice. My girlfriend last night, we were watching the clip and she heard it and she's just like, poor JR, you know, immediate sympathy for JR because she has a heart and she's a nice person. You know, she wasn't shitting on him. So, like, if anything, I felt bad for him. I felt bad that he said it. I'm trying my best to also, you know, kind of like the Young Bucks, find the humor in it, you know, but at the same time feel bad for him because it's just a slip up. It's just what happens. I'm not even old and I say all the wrong shit on my podcast all the time. And what's going to happen to me if I'm up here on YouTube when I'm 70? You know, WWE Dynamite, you know, I might say the same damn thing. So, you know, I just say give Jim Ross a break, you know, and I think any fan, you know, that takes any sort of, you know, irrational or, you know, kind of unstable anger and throws it at JR, you know, kind of just look at yourself and reflect on your own life and try to analyze how exactly happy you are, because to take it to that degree is a little bit ridiculous and it's a little bit fucking obnoxious. And Jim Ross is a legend, and if you can't respect that, then I don't respect you. You're not allowed in this chat. So, it's a shame. It's a shame that happened, but you know, it was what it was. And JR said what he said. Like I said, AEW's got a lot of good shit planned for the next few weeks. Road Rager next week, 1 week from last night. So I guess it's going to be the 7th of July. We've got, of course, that tag team title match. Penta and Eddie Kingston are going to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag team title. I don't expect them to win the tag straps there, but they might. We've got that set up. And we also have Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in a strap match. That might be the blow off there. They might do one more after that, not sure. But we got Cody and QT next week. And we've got the debut of Andrade Del Idolo, who's going to be taking on Matt Something. I laughed my ass off at that Andrade promo. When it was Marvez who was doing the interview with him, and they were talking about next week, and they were talking about Matt Sydal or whatever, and Andrade's like, I will wrestle next week in my debut, and I will wrestle Matt Something. He just kept calling him Matt Something, which was hilarious, and I will humble him or whatever he said. I like Andrade. I like his Spanish and his broken English. It's great, and I like the way he is just so over the top in his outfit and his crazy suit, and he does really project this aura of being a star. And next week when he faces Matt Something, I think that's going to be an awesome match. Matt Something is basically in the point of his career now where he's there to make people look good, and he is going to make Andrade look real good. Unless they throw a swerve at you and do an upset win and do a rematch, I don't think so. I think it's going to be Andrade beating Matt Sydal, but I think Mr. Something is going to put up a good fight and really give us a great match. I can't wait to see Andrade somewhere else. He was so good, such a good wrestler. I want just NXT Andrade back, you know, because the minute Raw Andrade was around, it was terrible. But now this is looking very promising, and now we finally get him in the ring, which is going to be good, and I'm ready for Road Rager next week. Not sure if I'm going to be home for that or not, but we'll definitely be up here next Thursday talking about that card because I think it might be fun. We also have Fyter Fest being set up. Fyter Fest Night 1 and 2 will be on July 14th and 21st, respectively. Both Wednesdays on Night 1, we've got Ricky Starks challenging Brian Cage for the FTW title, so Team Taz will explode here. And I think what's going to happen here is Team Taz is going to turn on Brian Cage. He's already teased a couple of times of being a little bit fed up with his gang, and I think he's going to be the one to go babyface here, not Ricky Starks. So they will probably hook, and Taz and Starks will probably all do something to screw over Brian Cage. He will be kicked out of Team Taz. He'll probably get some revenge on them, you know, because he can then have a rematch with Starks and beat Starks, but you can do it to where the title's not on the line and the FTW title can stay in Team Taz, and maybe they can even replace Cage with a new member. I wouldn't mind that, to get maybe somebody else young. Is there some big muscular guy around that has nothing to do right now? Stick him in there and, you know, just give him some, a rub from Team Taz. And Will Hobbs will be involved in that as well, I'm sure, in the Brian Cage screwing over. And then Cage could go babyface and maybe be an eventual challenger for Miro. That's kind of where I feel that trajectory could go. We'll see if I'm even close to being right. And then on night 2, July 21st, we've got Britt Baker defending the AEW Women's title against Nyla Rose. I fully expect her to retain there. We'll see how all that all goes down, but they've got some good matches sprinkled throughout these shows. And then in September, it's going to be huge. My birthday weekend. Wednesday, September 1st, AEW Dynamite. Friday, September 3rd, AEW Rampage. Must just be Rampage is the show that's already on. That's probably going to be built up nicely since it's on the same week as All Out. And then Sunday the 5th is All Out. My birthday is actually the following day on the 6th, which means I'll be up here. I might be up here streaming during Raw on my birthday, which is weird. Maybe I won't be. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to that weekend. AEW Dynamite Rampage All Out, going to be fun. All Out's going to be a big show, and probably will be headlined by Hangman and Kenny Omega. So that's pretty much all I have written down in my notes here. We had an okay audience today. If you guys can smash the thumbs up button for me, I would appreciate it. I'll knock out a couple more super chats. Oh, good. Chris is here because, Chris, I forgot you the other day. Remember? Thanks for the $5, brother. I agree with you on the Team Taz implosion, but it feels almost dragged out too long at this point. Well, that's why they're doing it. I mean, it's not going to be dragged out any longer than 2 more weeks. And that's when the match happens, and that's when we're going to see the implosion. I did feel, I guess, I don't think it's been dragged out too long, but I also feel like the cage thing would have happened by now. I thought it might have happened at Double or Nothing in the match with Adam Page. But they're stretching out a little bit here. I don't think it's crossed over into the territory of too long, but I think one could also argue that you could have done it already. And sorry I missed you too the other day. I guess, Sam, I mean, is that what it means if you're the FTW champion, or are you automatically the leader of Team Taz? I mean, if it's not Cage, I think it should be Hobbs. I mean, Hobbs is the big badass, but he's not the one facing Cage for the title. It's Starks. Unless they drag it out even further and Cage beats Starks, but then Cage has to face Hobbs and Hobbs beats him. I don't know. But I have a feeling Starks might be carrying around that FTW title for a little bit. Otherwise, you could turn Starks, but I just don't feel like that's gonna happen. No kidding. Really, Jose? A cousin and your uncle? That's awesome. Oh man, there's a YouTube guy I share a birthday with. I can't remember. Fuck. It might be Steve from Steven Larson. I can't remember now. I gotta think if I can even remember it now, but I think I share a birthday with somebody else. Don't recall. Yeah, I like the factions in AEW. Factions serve a purpose, if done right. And I think, there was times in WWE where it was just overrun by factions. And with AEW, they do have a lot of talent that, that came from the indies or maybe is not as recognizable. That's what Dark and Elevation are for and shit like that. So I think that that's a good way to get them noticed. That's a good way to get them out there and get people to see them and learn who they are and learn their personalities a little bit. That's why, so many great wrestlers got started that way. Edge and Christian. Edge, one of the greatest talkers in the world, wasn't a good talker. The first time they put a microphone in front of his mouth when he was a member of the Brood, I was like, yeah, that's enough. But he got good. But that's the way you kind of get talent over. The Hardys were the same thing. Hardys were with Michael Hayes, and they were the new Brood. Edge and Christian were in the Brood and the Ministry, and a lot of guys like that were able to, kind of come out of their shell, so to speak. That same thing. Look how Bradshaw even evolved. Because he didn't have a whole lot to do. He was kind of, was Justin Hawk, and he was doing a few things here and there, new blackjacks or nothing, but never really found his niche until he joined the Ministry, became an acolyte. And then the acolytes morphed into APA, and next thing you know, he's drinking beer, smoking cigars, beating the shit out of people, and being extremely charismatic and animated, and showed how good he could be on the mic, once he just, kind of learns and finds his niche. And that's what it's all about, finding your niche. And factions are a good way to do that, because you can get guys in there to see what they're good at, see what they're bad at. Probably the best example of anybody doing this was The Rock, who was a gum-chewing, baby-kissing babyface that everybody vomited at the sight of. Rocky Die, Rocky Maivia in that ridiculous outfit and that Chia Pet haircut of his. He got hurt, blew his knee out, rehabbed it, came back, immediately joined the Nation. Next thing you know, he's talking in third person. He's having a power struggle with Farouk. He's saying a couple things, on TV that's like, that was funny. He took the Rudy Poo line from Iceman King Parsons and started using it and started saying a few things, candy ass and SmackDown Hotel, and and then it just evolved and morphed and bubbled from there. And so factions work. Factions are a proven breeding ground for stars. Not everybody becomes a star, but some do, and you can always see who does. Dark Order. How would John Silver get any really good quality exposure or TV time if he wasn't involved in that group? And we could see what a crazy little goofy son of a bitch he is. You know what I mean? So I agree that sometimes you can overdo it with factions, sure, but the factions that they currently have, there's no useless factions there. Even QT Marshall's getting over with his bullshit, with his bowling outfit and stuff. Now he's facing Cody in a strap match. So I think in AEW, they serve their purpose, and I don't really have an issue. I don't really need any more factions in AEW. I'm cool with stopping, but I don't have too much of an issue with the amount that they have, because really the ones they have, they are utilizing. Where in WWE, they might create these little factions and then just never do anything with them. You know what I mean? Where AEW remembers that they're there. Oh, yeah, let's use these guys. So, yeah, I'm cool with the factions. I think there's enough, perhaps, and maybe there's like one too many. But that's it. That's as far as I'll go with it in terms of the faction criticisms. I'm actually pretty cool with it. Triple H, same thing, had Triple H and Shawn not convinced Vince to put them together. I think Triple H would have just gone down as a really good, solid worker. I'm not sure how much he would have really been able to evolve, because Blue Blood Jean-Paul Levesque and Blue Blood Hunter Hearst Helmsley are very different than who Triple H was. Triple H changed 3 times. He was the Blue Blood, which is, one gimmick, and then he went to a member of DX, that sophomoric bullshit, squirting water and, just being a goofball, and then being the cerebral assassin going in a completely other direction. So he was like a sophisticated heel, then he was a goofy, funny heel, and then he was a killer heel. That's called Evolution, which just happens to be the name of the faction that he headed up that birthed Randy Orton and Batista. So factions are proven to work. They do. Oh, they said BWO teams. Yeah, and there's another point to be made to Bully Ray's bullshit when he said Eddie Kingston, he never worked there. You shouldn't be able to criticize him. Well, how do you explain the BWO? Fucking Blue Meanie out there, the blue guy, making fun of the NWO and stuff, just completely ripping off their font and their logo and everything. None of them worked there. I mean, Stevie did. I can't remember if BWO was before or after Stevie was there. BWO was before, so even when Stevie was Big Stevie Cool, he hadn't been to WCW yet. At least I don't think he had. So it's just another stupid reason why another reason why his comments were stupid, because that makes no sense. You can't just change the rules to be in line with the biases you have. And that's what the wrestling fans do. Oh, well, Eddie Kingston can't say because he didn't work for WWE. Do you hear yourself? Do you even hear how stupid that is? And do you have the wrestling knowledge that dates back 6 days? Because if you have it any more than that, you would know that this is a totally regular thing that's done. So I don't know where the outrage is. It's recreational outrage. That's what they call it. Big Stevie Cool was over. Had a pretty damn good super kick too. He wore those little Daisy Duke shorts and the midriff shirt. Oh my God. I actually miss BWO. They were great. I didn't hate the BWO. I liked the BWO. I liked that they were making fun of NWO. I didn't have, I know I was, comparing ECW and all the shit talking they used to do, but I was on that bandwagon too. I liked it, just like I like it now. My stance has never changed. It's the other fans' stances who change. It's but I liked it when ECW did it. I liked it when AEW did it. So, to me, there's no yeah buts or no asterisks or no, oh, well, he can do it, but not this way or whatever. They keep changing the rules. Change those rules up. Fickle. Oh, yeah, and Ric Flair was an Evolution, too. Yeah, because without Evolution, nobody would have known who Ric Flair is. I'm kidding, Muhammad. Oh, thanks for writing those out. Dark Order, HFO, Inner Circle, Pinnacle. There's got to be one more. Is Nightmare Family still one? Remember, what was the Brandy one that sucked? What was that one? And they just dropped it. I can't remember what it was. That was bad. That was bad. But anyway, that is going to be it for today. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. We will be back on Saturday for another podcast. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to knock out a couple more super chats. I got Deshaun that I missed. I'm glad I scrolled up. And Spaz and Thomas. Okay, we're not done yet. I got to answer a couple questions. Way at the top. I'm so sorry for missing these earlier, but we're going to do them now. Spaz, Phoenix, thank you, dude. Appreciate the $5 from you. Happy 4th to my American friends. Happy Canada Day to my fellow Canadians. That's right, it's Canada Day. Happy Canada Day, Canada. Cheers, Greg. Cheap plug, blah, blah, blah. Yes, please go over to Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel and give him a sub and check out his videos. Always good conversations over there. And Thomas is back with $5 as well. Sorry for missing that one earlier. 6 more days until AEW is back on the road and 15 days until WWE is back in front of fans. I got to tell you what, I'm really surprised that WWE has waited this long. It feels kind of weird seeing those screens now when every other sport has got fans back. WWE was actually the last one, to join this party, in terms of like major, forms of entertainment. I guess Impact might still be doing it, but baseball and basketball and football, or football will be, all the spectator sports are back. So WWE's the last one to the party. Nerds. Fucking nerds, WWE. I got to knock out Deshaun as well. Thank you for that, man. Deshaun Robinson, appreciate the $4.99 from you. Kenny and the Bucks mustaches makes me cringe. Also, MJF had his first one-on-one match since December, and Sammy his first since mid-January. Damn, for real? That's crazy. I like the Bucks and Kenny's mustaches because of the cringe. I think that's what they're going for. They're trying to be cringe. I think it's great. The cringier, the better. They're so obnoxious, and they look like, I think Tony Schiavone even said that Matt Jackson looks like a porn star. They got, what are they? Hey, or the Fu Manchu or whatever it's called. I mean, it's really grown out. It's really black. They got these big, solid porn star tans now, and they're hilarious. I think they're going for obnoxious. I think they're going for that look for fans to say, oh my God, they look ridiculous. I think that's what they want, because why else would you do that? Do you walk around in public looking like that? Fuck no. I think they're purposely doing it to get a reaction like that, and I think that's why I like them. I think that's why the mustaches are so glorious and so badass, is because of how ridiculously fucking stupid they are. Anyway, I think that caught me up on the super chats. I want to apologize again for those that I missed. Can't wait for AEW Survivor Series tomorrow. I know, gonna be good stuff. Yeah, you probably will never see that mistake go the other way. I don't think Michael Cole will ever sign off and saying, thank you for joining us on AEW SmackDown. Probably not going to happen. But Jim Ross, we love you. We don't hold it against you at all. And you are every bit of a legend today as you were 2 days ago. It's not a big deal. Shake it off and fuck the haters. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. You guys have a great rest of your afternoon. And once again, rest in peace to Dale Wilkes, and condolences out to his friends and family. Y'all take care. Talk to you soon.